Please join us as we discover the secrets of Appendix carry in this episode of Can We Chat?
This podcast has been made possible by our sponsors, CA-IDPAshooters, responsible training for the competitive minded, and Fast Path Firearms training, because safety is no accident.
What's going on? My name is Paul G., Chief Safety Officer for the IDPA. This channel will help you clarify IDPA rules, shooting techniques, and inform you of the newest gear and what's going on in the shooting community. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Please welcome back my dear friend, fellow shooter, and now teammate.
Yes.
Jon Piraino. Good morning to you, brother.
What's up, man? Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, that's a long drive out here. How was traffic?
No, it's fine. No big deal. No, it's great to be out here. I love coming out and hanging out, talking with you.
Oh, I really appreciate you coming out here. I mean, we just finished up yesterday shooting our local match, so we got a lot of workout.
It's a good match.
Threw down them with the revolver. How's that sound?
It could have went better. Yeah, you know how it is. I had a pretty bad experience. I had my second firing pin break in like 3 matches.
Yeah, I noticed that you're going through pins like.
Yeah, no, I just go through them. Forget it.
I mean, it's it's almost turned into like disposable, right?
I know, right?
Well, I know. My PCC went just beat the heck out of Prims as well. And, so is it a gun problem or is it?
I don't think it's a gun problem. I have like an aftermarket hammer spring set and firing pin.
So that's a different set.
So I think we might have to look at that.
Okay.
It could be. Robert was saying that it maybe could be a spring in the firing pin return that maybe it's hitting too hard. Right. You know, well, we're gonna have to figure it out, or I'm just gonna dump them all together. And I'd be shooting, semi-autos like a normal person. But we'll see. We got.
It's complicated enough that you have to do reloads and so forth. But when the gun starts to do strange things, right? Especially a revolver, which is like a staple, right?
I know people say that, right? They say like, "Oh, it's a revolver. Nothing can go wrong." Yeah, you ever open one up? It looks like a Swiss watch inside. Like things can go wrong. Trust me, they do, right?
Well, it's a secret combination to open up a revolver to begin with, right?
Yeah, right.
But when you do,
there's a lot of moving parts in there.
Absolutely, and then they're not strange things, right? They're like machine stuff, and they have to be working well, kind of like a Rolex, right?
Right, and a lot of the tolerances are pretty tight. So you get things out of spec, and a lot can go wrong, basically.
But when they do run,
they're great.
They're run
fun.
forever.
Yeah, like my, thankfully, I learned from our teammate Kurt to bring a backup gun. He taught me that, and I'm very grateful to Kurt for that. So I brought my GP100 for my backup.
Right.
And I'm starting to think that maybe that one should be the primary, because that one doesn't go down. The Smith goes down, but that one doesn't seem to go down. So I may flip the order. So anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, I never had an issue with my Smith Smith & Wesson. It was just when it started getting really dirty.
Yes.
Getting stuff in and out of the
cylinder. A lot of gunk in the cylinders
was the only problem that I had. Other than that, it just ran.
And again, I really don't think it's a Smith issue. I think it's the aftermarket stuff that we tried to put. You want to make a gun go faster, right? You want to make it be cooler, and trying to do all these things, and it just might not be working. Maybe just end up putting all the stock parts back in it. Who knows, man?
But overall, I mean, how did it work throughout the day?
I felt pretty good. I mean,
you look great.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
I appreciate
that.
There was a stage there that was quite fast. I noticed that most of them, the way that the stages were set up were really fast. Right?
Yeah, they were quick stages. Right? And then some of them were just kind of stagnant, right? Like we just had a couple that we could stand still and shoot the whole stage. Oh, one of them you had an option, right? Well, it was stage 7 where we had
which I just took just standing there.
Yes.
I should have ran.
I went up and ran.
I thought that's definitely stage 7.
Because with the reloads for me, it's going to take a long time anyway.
Yeah.
So I needed to be on the move and do that kind of stuff.
I should have looked it up. I was sitting there like, I think I could, but it was. Well, unless you're shooting PCC or optics or something like that, I don't.
Robert burned it down with the PCC. That was pretty good. After I said it, it was almost like cheating. I mean, you just got that little dot and boom, 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 right across. So.
Oh, but yeah, there were definitely fast stages. What stages was your favorite?
I actually like that one we were just talking about, the one where I chose to start up front, stage 7, and then go across. I actually thought that was probably my best stage of the. I don't know if it was time wise, but it felt the best to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think we actually have coverage of them. So
cool.
this is Jon shooting stage 7. Well, you're absolutely right. I should have started from the left side and did the same thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't that much more, but the thing was that
Being farther away,
it didn't take you that much time to engage the targets, right?
Yeah.
So there was a target there that was covered by a non-threat. So did you?
Yep.
You
I aimed high, shot head.
Yeah, you
head
shot
box.
the head.
Yeah, for that one.
But that definitely looked good.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Reloads look fantastic.
Oh, that's the biggest struggle, right? I mean, it is with the revolver. It's the reloads is the whole game. So,
well, 6 shots.
you're doing it all the time.
Yes, you're gonna be doing a lot of work. I mean, that aside from bug, right? Those 2 divisions, it's all about reloading.
But now you're CCP. You've been doing. How'd you feel yesterday?
So I'm just getting used to shooting with 10 rounds because I don't know what to do with myself, right? So,
you've had 6 for a while now, right? So
right, I sat, and the first time I sat, I actually did a reload
before,
right? And I pulled one out, and I'm like, there's still bullets.
Yeah,
there, right? I had to pull it back in and start shooting, but that was the last match, and
nice.
And so now I'm getting used to it. I'm starting to move a little faster. I'm still trying to stabilize my front sight.
Okay.
Right. So it's still moving around. I'm not sure what I'm looking at yet.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot different. This one's a red filament. Mm-hmm. The other one was white, and so now I'm looking for red now.
Is it like a fiber optic?
Yes.
Okay.
The fiber optic. So Viking made his an analog front sight, which made the dot larger.
Oh, cool.
So it fills that gap.
Yeah.
So I just have one huge red dot, and I'm just looking.
They must pop then.
It does, but for some reason or other, I lose red.
I do too. With red dots and stuff, like with actual red dots, like I see green better than I see, and even with iron sights, I have a couple that are, green, tubes, and I see those a lot better than the red.
So I'm thinking of trying to maybe I'll experiment with the green, and see exactly what I see from there.
Yeah.
But definitely when I'm really going fast, red, I don't even remember seeing red.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't see.
Yeah. Well, and then I think kind of the environment that we shoot, right? Like, I think if you're in, I don't know, if you're in the Northwest or you're in like the Southeast where there's a lot of greenery, like everything's green, like maybe green might not be the best, right? But we have kind of a desertish type of landscape.
Right.
So, red kind of with the browns and the tones, it might kind of get a little bit muddled, right? And the green pops a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely, we'll have to get back to you guys on that part. But I haven't figured it out. So I started, we did some work last week.
Yeah, on the range.
And I appreciate you coming out for doing that.
I had all the fun.
Place. Which brings us to our topic, appendix carry. So John's how long have you been carrying appendix?
About 2.5 years.
What was it like to actually strap it in for the first time?
Nerve-wracking, for sure. I mean, nerve-wracking. You got a gun pointed at your business. It's not, at first it's very scary.
Right. So you have your holster. So when you're coming in, and you draw, it's actually, you have a system that you're actually using.
Yeah. Right? So for me, and I've done, before I did this, I did a lot of research, and by research I mean I talked to people that I knew that carried that way.
Yeah.
And then I also, we all watch YouTube and stuff like that, and I have there's channels and people that I respect their opinions
Right,
and
right.
have watched enough to say, okay, that guy knows what he's talking about or
Right,
whatever.
right.
So I've watched as much as I could
Right.
in terms of appendix carry content.
So
right?
your priority concern was what? Getting hurt or?
Well, listen, anytime you handle a gun, whether it's wherever it is, right?
Yes.
Whether it's here outside the waistband, inside the
Right.
waistband, you're
Right.
making life and death decisions, right?
Well, I mean, more serious,
Yes.
well, like catastrophic injuries to the pelvis, right?
Yes.
I mean, those there's no coming back from that.
Correct.
But if it's on the side,
Right.
now you're looking at hip, bone,
Right.
but you have your skeleton to protect you from vitals,
Right.
which is center line, right?
Right.
But you put this is center line.
Yeah, and it's
So-
not just. I mean, it's not just your man area. There's also. I mean, there's femoral arteries, right, that you have to worry about
right.
too.
Then and the main hoses, right? So that's my question.
Yeah.
So when you go to draw, right, when is your finger actually on the trigger, and does the holster actually protect you from you putting your finger on?
Definitely does. Definitely does. So my technique that I kind of worked up, I don't think I'm original or anything, but this is just kind of what I came up with, was that I wanted to use this part of my thumb as my first touch point. So I'd get here on the back plate and then wrap my thumb around the front side, rear side.
Right.
And then as I'm doing that, my bottom 3 fingers wrap around the gun and they pull out.
Right.
Now, my finger's still out of the trigger guard, and I'll pull up, and as I'm presenting, my thumb will go wrap around
Right.
so that I can defeat this safety,
Right.
and I will present out, and then as I'm presenting out, my finger goes into the trigger guard.
Okay. So by this time, it's already away from your
Oh,
body,
fully away from my body
40
and pointed
at least
away.
by 20 degrees.
Yep.
So it's out in front of you.
Yep.
And you're coming out forward. So
Yep.
so now that's something totally different, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the myths were, you come in, you put your,
Right.
when you draw, you go off and you shoot yourself, right?
Right.
So, but your finger doesn't even get on the trigger at
No.
least until 15,
Not until I'm
20 degrees in
up
front of
here and point and pushing. As I'm pushing out, it works its way into the trigger guard.
That's okay. So
Yeah.
now that's something totally different.
Yeah.
Right? So
And for me, and again, I'm not original in this way of thinking or anything.
Right.
And this is not like instructions for other people.
right.
I've made a set of like rules for myself
Right.
when it came to appendix carry. And a lot of it has to do with the type of gun that I carry.
Okay.
So I put them into some categories, and ideally for me, it would be carrying a DASA gun, like something like a Beretta, although that's
Right.
a 92 is a little big to shove down your pants. I mean, people do it, I'm sure,
Right.
but it's not my preferred thing. So something like that where you can pin a hammer as you're reholstering, right? Just like a revolver, you could pin a hammer down as you're reholstering, and you can give yourself that added layer of safety. That would be ideal. We live in California. There's roster issues. Everything's not available to us all the time, right? So I couldn't find anything in the DASA realm that I liked. So my next choice would be for something with a tank safety.
Okay.
Right? Because same principle applies. When I go to reholster,
Yes.
putting my thumb in the same spot where a hammer would be
Keeps you off of the safety.
keeps me off of the safety.
So it's not engaged. So the trigger won't go if you wanted it
Right.
to, right? But
Correct.
only when you're up here. But the thing is that now you have to establish a grip
Yep.
coming up.
Yep.
And so now it's moving.
Yeah.
So
And I know a lot of people have issue with grip safety. I mean, it's a very polarizing topic when you talk to gun people. It's like, oh, I hate that. What if you don't grip the gun? Listen, let me tell you.
Here we go.
I have shot I've probably shot 5,000 rounds through this gun.
Right.
At least.
Which you should.
Which you should. Yeah.
Right.
Unless I'm gripping it with my feet, I've defeated the safety. Okay. You'd have to have a really poor grip to not defeat it. Okay. And if your grip is that poor, you're not going to get a shot off anyway. Right. So to me, for me, it gives me a sense of security. It gives me a better feeling carrying in that position.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna. So the other holsters that we have
Yeah.
here.
So I wanted to demonstrate a little something when it comes to holsters when you're carrying Appendix.
Okay.
So these are two holsters. These are from Tier 1, right? It's a pretty well-known company. They're both for XDs. This one is for the what they call the full-size XD, which is it's like a 4-inch barrel, but it's a full grip. So it's kind of like a Glock 19 barrel with a 17 grip.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And this one is for the gun I carry, which is the subcompact version. Right. Sometimes when you get short barrels, when you carry an Appendix, and your belt goes along this line, it goes along this line right here. Because the barrel's short, you will, if you got a little extra love in the front, right?
Okay.
You will tip out a little bit.
So that was going to be my next question. So
Yeah.
The more comfortable gentlemen that actually have a little bit more
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
padding.
We
in
enjoy
front.
life a little bit.
Right,
and,
right. The
you know,
bellies,
right?
right?
Right.
So this actually goes above the.
No.
Or they go below the belly. So you.
Right. And then so
Okay.
sometimes it'll, you push out a little bit like this. Now you
All
can
right.
solve that issue two different ways. You can either get a holster that's for the full size, right, and that your barrel will stop. Your gun will stop here, but it's longer, so it presses back against you.
Right.
Or you can use something like this,
A wedge.
which is a wedge, where you can, put it on the back here, and that'll keep it
I didn't
wedged
know
back
that.
up against you.
Wow.
And these come in all different sizes. I think this is a large. This is a pretty big one actually, but the principle, you get the principle.
Right.
So you hold
but
it.
now, so the top's no longer coming forward. It's
Right, now it's pressed back in against you.
Push up. So now
Yeah.
you have.
Now your concealability is a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that stuff like that existed.
And then also you see on these, they have these little, actually I use them on all of them, these little wings.
Right.
That, so we talked about getting it this way.
Stuff
Now
it
we
from-
talk about getting it this way against your body, right? So now it's closer to you and it's not kind of listing out that way.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Well, so what about mags? Do they have holsters that carry mags, or do you have to put mags on the side? Or?
Well, are we talking competition or are we talking
let's just
self-defense?
stick for this. But yeah, that's another topic that I'd love to get in. I was, so where would you? So mags just go in your pocket?
Pocket. I have a couple of Neomag. A company called Neomag makes a good like magnetic clip that goes into your pocket, and when it's in your pocket, it kind of looks like you have a pen.
Okay.
Right, sticking in your pocket, and then it holds the magazine close to it, and you can just so it's not floating around in your pocket. Right.
Right.
So that's a good way to carry extra mags. Some of these companies, these holsters are not set up for it, but some companies have like a sidecar attachment for a mag. So you'll have like an attachment here, and then it just all goes into the front.
So you carry yours almost at 12 o'clock, right?
Not quite. It's a little. I would say
off
it's
to 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I would say yeah.
So anywhere from 12 to 2 is usually the usual things, but
Right.
In competition they allow you from 12 to 4, right?
Right,
So,
right. Some places like our range won't allow it.
Right, for local reasons.
Yeah.
But this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of variabilities that I didn't know about, like fingers, right? I was like, so when do you actually put your finger on the trigger? Type of thing, and how do you pull and stuff? And this is fascinating.
Yeah. You can go down a rabbit hole. I mean, listen, I got a drawer full of these things. Like, it's ridiculous. You buy some and you think, oh, that looks good on. I just got one on order actually too,
Right.
so it's going to be here in the next couple of days.
So, I mean, how many holsters have you gone through to actually find one that was the most comfortable?
Do I have to admit that on
Well,
on your show?
kinda. I mean, if there was anybody out here that would want to experiment with this stuff, right? I mean, you can
That's the
cut them
problem.
out.
That's kind of the problem with holsters is like you can get a pretty good idea when you look online and stuff like that, but everybody's body is shaped different.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like, it just
Absolutely.
no matter what. I mean, these companies, like, I think they do a really good job of trying to get like ergonomics right and stuff. But I mean, they're behind the eight ball because everybody's shaped differently. So you kind of got to see what you like, whatever. Try it, and then sometimes it's like, oh, that's pretty good, and sometimes you're going, this is awful. Like I can't, you know. So like I said, I got a drawer, a shame drawer full of holsters that I've bought.
Well, you got 3 there.
Yeah, I got 3 right here and 1 on order, so that gives you a little bit of an idea. And this one I've worn so much, like the black is wearing off the washers and stuff. So
so when the paint comes off, you're doing a good job, right?
probably.
Right. So on my gun, right, it's polished now, right?
Yeah, you take all the bluing off of it because of all the draw. Yeah, you're working at it. Yeah, that's good. No, but I mean, you're gonna go through a bunch. I would say. I mean, I don't think a half dozen is crazy, right? Like I would say, but maybe you get lucky. Maybe the second one is the best. Maybe the first one's the best. I don't know.
So you're carrying at 1 o'clock. Do you cant your gun any? Do you prefer it to be canted, or do you like it straight?
No, I like it straight up and down. I like it straight up and down. If it's when you're talking about 3, 4 o'clock, I mean maybe a little bit of cant might be good for draw.
Right.
But when I'm talking appendix, I mean, we're like you said, it's straight in front of you. I just want to go straight down
and up. So
straight down and up.
Everything straight. Okay. So I mean, so the wings itself, stops it from going forward and back.
Yeah. So if you imagine my belt coming across here, the wing is going to keep it this way, right? So it kind of rides along my side, right?
Okay.
And then without it, the hard part of concealing when you're talking about appendix is the butt end of the grip.
Right. So if it goes outward, then
this way or this way.
Yes.
Right.
Oh.
Right. So if this is my body, we're talking about this way or this way is going to print. Right. So we talked about the wedge, but then also the this little wing here goes up against the belt and tightens it a little bit this way. So it kind of, I mean, it's hard plastic, but it kind of contours a little more to your shape.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's all Kydex.
Yep.
Right? So you don't have one side that's like covered with velvet or anything like that?
No.
How comfortable are these wearing them all day?
That's a good question. That's a really good question because they can be, depending if you get if you get the right fit, they can be really comfortable. They can also be really, really uncomfortable. Like it could be the most uncomfortable position in certain, in certain settings. If you're sitting a lot during the day, right, and like if you're bending over a lot during the day, if you're doing that kind of stuff during the day, it can be uncomfortable.
Right.
I've kind of learned how to sit a certain way, right? Like where,
no way.
Yeah, like
Are
if you're,
serious?
Yeah, like if you're at let's say you're at a restaurant or something, like you wouldn't catch me in this position where like my butt is to the back of the chair and my chest is forward. Like you wouldn't catch that. I will be on the edge of the chair, like kind of like this.
Yes. And
I'll be a little straighter up, right? In that position so that I'm not crunching onto the gun, right?
Right.
So it kind of depends on,
which is a good thing because you're definitely not slouching anymore, right?
Yeah. No, that's true. They're definitely not. But
sit up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It reinforces some good posture, I guess.
So it forces you to arch your back.
Yeah.
Right? So your shoulders are back now, and try to keep a straight line is what you're
as
trying
much as you can.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so the other challenge you would have is depending on what you like. I'm lucky I get to dress like a slob all the time. But like if you have to tuck in a shirt or if you have to wear a suit or something like that, it can be challenging. You'd need something that has gap between the clips and the holster to tuck your shirt in, right? And then you're going to expose, the clips, which is fine. Most people don't really. It's not something anybody looks for.
Well,
but I mean,
I guess.
Yeah. But if you were, I have a good buddy of mine that has started carrying and he asked me, he's like, how do you carry at work? Like, how would you carry it? Because he wears like mostly like golf attire, at work, right? Like a collared shirt, slacks. And I'm like, it's a really good question because I don't know. I would think like maybe pocket might be a good thing if you can find something small enough, or like I said, a tuckable appendix holster, which they make,
So comfort is a huge challenge.
It is a challenge.
How large of a gun can you actually wear comfortably?
That's another really good question. Yeah. And I will tell you, in my experience, the size of the gun kind of makes a difference.
Oh,
but
no, size doesn't matter.
I was trying to avoid that. But sometimes the bigger gun can actually be more comfortable because the longer barrel might keep it closer into you, right?
It's just keeping all your stuff back.
Exactly. Like, I have a Micro 9 that I carry sometimes. It's a Ruger Max 9. And it's kind of in the same size category as like a 360 P365 or a Springfield Hellcat. Those kind of thin. And they're great, but the hard thing is they're difficult to draw because they're so small.
Yes.
Right.
And especially if you're a little comfortable. Up
Yeah,
front, right?
exactly.
You have a little belly.
Yep.
So now you're kind of digging for it, right?
Right. Yeah, and because there's not a lot of gun in there, it's trying to kind of find its way out.
That's a great point.
Right? So you think like, oh, these are awesome. They're so small. Like they feel so comfortable inside the waistband. And they do feel comfortable most of the time. But I think they print more than like, your Glock 26 or 19 or something like that. And they're harder to draw and, they're harder to shoot too. Cause they're small guns, anything smaller the gun, the harder it is to shoot. And at least in my experience.
Yeah. So, cause it moves around and so forth, body types.
Yep.
So if you're a little, plus size down there, it'll push it outward and so forth. But I would thought that with the more, belly you have, the easier to hide, right? So
no, it really just depends. Like I said, everybody's shaped differently. Like you could have somebody that's, you could have two guys that are the same height and they weigh the same,
right?
And
they fit
totally different holsters and totally different guns.
That makes a lot of sense. So
which is hard to fit yourself,
right? So I always thought in conceal was actually smaller the better, right? But in this case, that's
and I always thought that too. And sometimes it can be, right? Like it just depends on a bunch of different factors, what clothes you're wearing or where you're going. So for me and for us, I think, like I said, we live in California. We're not the friendliest gun state in the world, right?
Well,
and the people that we interact with all day are, here we're more likely to have people that know less about carrying and know less about guns than maybe in Texas or Idaho, right? Okay. So my priority is kind of to not print, because I don't want the cops being called on me.
Well,
I don't want, who knows what can happen in some situation like that.
They're concealed,
right?
So you might as well hide them, right?
Right,
so
exactly.
Right way, and stop, advertising and so forth.
Yeah.
But when the first time that you strapped one of those on, how much practice and training did you actually go through to make
quite a bit?
Oh, really?
Yeah, quite a bit. And in fact, I did a lot of.
So your learning curve was quite.
And I would say like, don't skimp on that.
Well, for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons,
right?
I did a lot of dry fire. I did one of the things I did on the recommendation of somebody that I knew was I emptied the gun and put it in the holster and put it on me and just carried it around the house.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, okay, I have to get used to just that feeling.
Yeah.
And the first time you go out, right, you go to like a supermarket or you go to, and you're like, oh my God, everybody knows I have a gun on me. And of course, nobody's paying attention to you because everybody's in their own world, right? Like it's the whole thing. But
well, nowadays nobody actually looks up anymore, right? They're all looking.
No, you're looking at your phone.
Just don't talk to me, right? Yeah.
So yeah, but that's one way that I did. One thing that I did to kind of get myself comfortable with the feeling, and then just going to the range,
right?
Where I could, like an outdoor range, indoor range usually don't let you draw. Where I could do it really deliberately at first, right? Like put a gun, it's loaded. I'm gonna holster it. Okay, I'm good. I'm gonna slowly draw, fire. I'm gonna slowly put it back in. I'm gonna be real deliberate about my movements and everything that I do. And then just like anything, right? Like it's repetition and you get better and better and better at it. And then finally, I don't think you ever stop that, right? It just, there's levels of that, right? You get faster at it, but it doesn't mean that you're always cognizant of it.
So
which you should be.
You train, you establish a system, and that's how you do things.
Yeah.
That's your protocols,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
when you actually are, I mean, it'll be second nature when you are called to actually perform.
Hopefully,
right?
I never am.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean that's the goal, right? Is to you. What do they always say? Like you sink to the level of your training.
Right,
and
especially when chaos is flying all over the place, right?
Absolutely.
It always, it turns into what a reflex is, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
totally.
So it comes up. But so we were out at the range, and you showed us how to do this thing.
Yep.
Which you guys got to take a look at that video. That was a cute little
that was a good one.
3-minute video. So,
yeah.
So I was pretty impressed with it. You gave a lot of great information, showing us how to draw from that.
Yeah.
Ever thought? I mean, in California, it's especially at Prado and so forth, the local stuff, they tend to steer clear of the appendix. But every match that I've gone to, everybody, they're all the fast guys.
Yeah.
They are pulling from appendix.
I would love to be able to do it. I mean, our local match doesn't allow us to do it,
Right,
but I would actually love to be able to do it just as a training aid, right?
Yes.
Like,
I don't see a problem. Well, so the first problem I had was, people with funny triggers, right?
Yeah.
Especially coming from the side, the hip, right?
Yeah.
People try to put their fingers on a lot sooner than they need to.
well, and not just, sorry to interrupt you, but not just finger placement on triggers, but like, let's, we all tinker with our guns, right? Aftermarket triggers, right?
Yes.
You're talking about like,
okay.
real like lightweight, like this. I carry a bone stock gun.
Right.
There's nothing. I've done nothing to this gun except for some grip panels.
Yes.
On it. That's it. And I would never.
Right.
I would never put like a super light trigger in a carry gun or anything like that.
So for the past year, I've been messing around with Bug, right? Which is my carry gun, right? So, and it has a LEM trigger. So, so I have a, I believe it's 50 yards of pull, right? So I'm sitting there and that's specifically there for safety.
Absolutely.
Purpose, right? So it's my finger. If my fingers, if I don't want to pull the trigger, I'm not going to.
You're not going to. Yeah.
So and that usually takes me all the way up until here, right? Which is good and bad, especially.
So you prep on your way out. You prep that LEM trigger.
Oh, I have to.
Yeah.
Right. If I want to get on time, right? So I actually train to draw and shoot, right? And I'm trying to get under a second, and trying to do it with a LEM trigger is very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Right. So
speaking of that, drawing, shooting, and training and stuff, one of the things that I learned, I can't remember who I picked this up from, but actually I think it's a good training tool, is when you're training appendix, you draw and not shoot every time.
Yes.
Right? Because sometimes you may not want to pull that trigger.
Right.
Right? Like you may have to just get your gun out, right? But if you're trained all the way to just be like boom, right on, you might get yourself in trouble. Right? So something like that could be an issue.
Let's actually have Jon take a look at, or show us his holster and gun, and we'll get right back.
Okay, so here's my setup for normal days. I have a couple of different holsters here. It just kind of depends on what I'm wearing. I actually prefer holsters that have 2 clips on them. I feel like it's a little bit sturdier. These are plastic ones. I'm actually looking to replace them with some DCC, which is the metal clips. They're a little bit sturdier, a little harder to take on and off your belt, but that could be a good thing too. As for the gun, it's a Springfield XD subcompact, nothing fancy. This gun's been around for about, 25 years or so. And look, it's a polymer frame striker fired gun that is very durable. I've shot a lot of rounds through this thing, and it's always treated me pretty well. The one thing I really like about it, and the reason why I got it to carry, was this grip safety right here. And I've said before, it can be a polarizing thing, but for me, it's something that I believe in and something that helps me feel comfortable, a little added layer of safety. So I would suggest, if you're talking about appendix carry, I would definitely stick with Kydex. I really wouldn't go with hybrid holsters or leather holsters, because the flaps can come wear in, which can, if you're not careful, can maybe get into the trigger guard and of course you really don't want that. So that's just basic setup and carrying appendix. You just got to make sure you do your homework and you train.
Well, I dig those holsters.
Yeah.
So all three of those are pretty comfortable for you, or?
Yeah, for the most part. This one is actually the least comfortable for me because it kind of, these edges are a little bit sharp. So it just kind of depends on what I'm wearing. You know, if I'm wearing something that's a little, if I'm wearing pants that are a little maybe more snug than my normal like shorts or something like that.
And you can definitely take a file and
Yeah, you can definitely alter these. I mean, I wouldn't alter them too much, but rounding off edges here and there.
So the wedge itself, does that stick to the holster as well? Or
yeah, it's just got an adhesive on the back.
You pull that off and then you place that on.
I would put it right here if I needed to, and it would just act as a way to keep the gun closer to me.
And what company carries, or where do people find the wedges?
This is Tier 1 concealed.
Tier 1.
I think they make the best wedges actually. These little guys. T-Rex is a good company. They make good holsters. I just bought one from Eclipse. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Patent pending on that one.
Right. And then,
so
that's great because with noses that actually start to point towards your pelvis, right? You can actually bring it back out.
Away, yeah. And it helps with reholstering too. Like one of the techniques one of the techniques that I use is I try to lean back, right? I try to lean back as far as I can, and you know, get it to where the gun is facing
forward,
as far away from me as I can.
Yes.
You know, putting it back in. You're never going to get it to be like out here, but at least getting it you know, clear of things.
Do you manipulate it, or so like get the muzzle into the holster started, and then you can kind of move them forward, or you just straight in and no?
Yeah, you can. You definitely can do something like this. I think if you position your body correctly, where you're leaning back, I think you can just go straight in.
Down.
As you know, like I said, I have the protocol where I take my thumb off of the grip safety, and not that that's a foolproof thing or that you should rely on that, but it's just an added layer.
Right. But the things that it protects the trigger, you know, from the belt down, right, and then from the belt up, and so your finger's not even in the trigger guard until it's until
I'm about here and I start to press out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you feel comfortable doing it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd like to try to figure it out. I don't even know where to start as far as the holsters are concerned. You are those Tier 1 as
Tier
well?
1, yeah. These two are Tier 1 concealed. They're, you know, you can go cheap, but you know, I don't think these are like, don't quote me, but I think it's somewhere around $80 or something like that a piece. So.
That's about the common thing, right?
Yeah, so you can get. I mean, you know, there's some that go for north of 100 and 125. And I wouldn't feel bad spending a lot of money on a holster, right? Because it's important.
I mean, it's very important.
Yeah. So I definitely wouldn't feel like, even if it didn't work out, I'd be like, okay, well. But you went about it the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
You take a lot of pictures of that, put that on Instagram. Like, hey, this definitely didn't work.
Yeah. And maybe you trash them online and they go, oh, here's a 20% discount code for the next one.
Or not.
Yeah, right. Or not.
So for competition, obviously part of practice is dry fire, training, carrying it around, getting used to it, and then eventually getting to the range, right?
Yeah.
So now you have static shooting and then dynamic shooting, and then you have competition, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing that I'm trying to figure out is like a lot of the guys, because you have to use a reload, right? If you use smaller guns, you're going to need more mags, right? So obviously they're going with the largest guns that they can, right? So the ESP, SSP, carry optic guys, and they even CCP perhaps, but they're still, where do they put their mags for competition? You would say that they had piggybacks, right? You were saying?
Yeah, there's the sidecars that you could put on, but usually that's just one, right? And you may need more than that. And I mean, typically, if you in IDPA, typically you just need to do one reload, right? Like if you're shooting CCP or carry optics or whatever. And so that could work, and maybe you could stow extras in your pocket, or like I said, those Neo mags that clip on.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you know, and maybe it's gaming it a little bit, but if you just have like kind of a regular, mag carrier on your side, and maybe just a little bit bigger shirt than you would normally wear, something like that.
As long as it's covering.
As long as it's covering, you're good to go in IDPA, right? So that might work too.
Right.
The only issue with that is now you got a little bit extra material, right? So you have to clear extra material.
And how often do you clear? Do you always, when you clear to grab, it comes back down and covers?
Right.
So now do you have to pull back up? And
well, I think if you were going to go change mags from the side, you definitely would have to clear again.
Right. So,
right. But I mean, we clear vests sometimes too, right?
Yeah, but I mean, shirt coming over, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
now
a little more.
You have to pull it up, and then when you're pulling up, what, you're going to grab it really fast, or you
just have to grab it really fast.
Wow.
Practice, goddammit, let's go.
I know I have a lot of questions about that because I don't know, right? I'm sitting there like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? But the other guys, I mean, that's what I see them do. Prairie Optics, one mag, that's all they have to worry about. But when they put it up, it's already over, right? So
I mean, if it's a sidecar holster where you have your mag sticking out, especially if you have like maybe like a extended base plate or something like that, where you have a little bit extra,
keeps it up,
and you go to draw, that's likely that it's going to stay in front,
right?
Which would really help. But then again, can you really count on that every single time in a match?
Consistency is definitely something you're looking for. Yeah. But all right. So we went through all that stuff. Yeah. Say that I did make a decision to do this stuff.
Yeah.
What is the advantages of actually pulling from Appendix
in competition?
In competition.
In competition. So I do think it's a faster draw than swiping a vest away.
Right.
The advantage, not so much in the competition, but just in everyday life, is you're getting extra training how you would normally carry.
Of course, right?
So there's that. But other than that, I think it's just equal. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. Whether you're carrying outside the waistband at 3 o'clock with a vest, or whether you've got a Appendix and you've got a shirt over it. The only thing I would say is that the draw is a little bit faster.
Oh, I've seen some guys do sub-second draws, and that is impressive, right?
Yeah.
So I try to stay under 1 second, but it's tough because you gotta take the
you've
cover
got to
out
sweep,
of the way.
and you've got to
majority
grab,
of that is all covered. But
I would say, I would say one more thing in terms of advantage. I don't know if it depends on what type of holster that you're using, but if you're carrying Appendix in competition, it's not going to move. It's staying in that exact same spot.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, just from walking around or whatever, like sometimes if you're not paying attention, your holster might, if it's not locked into your belt or whatever, it might move a little bit. You might go to grab and go, oh, I'm not in the right spot. So that could be an advantage as well.
Yeah, I try to put my holsters onto my belt loops a lot more, but I mean they pin them in,
right?
And I need them to be over like 2 more degrees over.
Okay.
So I have to do it outside the loop, and that's exactly what happens. It starts to fish around, right?
Right.
So
so maybe the consistency of being in the same spot every time could be an advantage.
So consistently, definitely know exactly where to draw from. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Who do you recommend this to? Like, would you think this is something that a beginner can learn right out of the bat, or should they have some experience? Yeah,
I think you should have some experience. Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think that you should, like non-negotiable, you should put in the time to practice. Like this is not something that's, you should just be like, oh, that looks cool. I saw a guy do it on Instagram. I'm gonna like, that's a good way to get hurt really bad. Right. And so, I would say if you have a little bit of experience, if you're comfortable handling a gun, if you're comfortable drawing, let's say first outside the waistband, then you're comfortable drawing from 3 or 4 o'clock inside the waistband. Okay, then after that, maybe you try moving it over and do your prep, do your homework, find out the gun that works for you,
right?
The holster setup that works for you, dry fire it a ton, practice it a ton. Like, it's just not to be taken lightly, but I think anybody can.
It's serious. They're definitely serious.
I think anybody can do it as long as they've put in, the hours, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it. I mean, the logistics of everything, trying where to carry and stuff like that. Definitely, it's all brand new.
Yeah.
And so forth. And they're I could see where things. My main issue was when do you put your finger on the trigger, and definitely I like it because it's out here. So now it's this is actually something a little bit more safer than the myths that I heard. Yeah.
And I would also, like I said, gun selection's a big deal, right? Because like for me, and it's nothing against these companies because I like their guns. Like I'm not going to carry a Glock in that position. And people do, and I'm not telling them that they shouldn't. It's just my own personal views are like, I don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't carry a SIG in that position. Like I had nothing against the gun. It's just I don't feel comfortable with it.
Why wouldn't you want to carry a SIG in that position?
Well, I mean, aside from SIG has had some issues, with like the 320 and some other. The 365 hasn't had. I don't think has had. They might have had some issues in the beginning, but they've probably ironed those out by now. But if it's a striker fired gun that has no external safety at all, then to me it's just there are other options, and I don't need to do that. Right.
He's talking about sear issues. SIG was known. Well, I mean, they had some rare cases that the firearm would discharge on its own,
getting bumped or dropped or
But those are you really look into it, do some research behind it, and you kind of find out that the trigger system was actually modified or polished and so forth. Just to be fair.
Yeah.
So,
oh no, and again, to be fair, I am not in any way disparaging those manufacturers or those guns. They're all fabulous guns. I mean, I own a bunch of Glocks. And
I
love them.
One myself. Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is that especially if you think about it, so guns that have these triggers, long trigger pulls, and that's why they have long trigger pulls, right?
Right.
If you're wondering why, and that's why you shoot revolver, right?
Yeah.
Pulling a revolver from that snub nose or something like that. Now you're talking about something totally different, right?
And if you want to, revolvers are actually ideal to carry in that position, right? Because they've got the hammer and they've got a long trigger pull, right? So if you're comfortable shooting a revolver, if you think, hey, listen, 6 is all I need, or sometimes 5 is all you need because the air weights or the the LCRs or whatever or 5-shot guns, and those things disappear in your waistband. I mean, they're tiny, and and revolvers are actually a lot easier to draw even as a small gun because of the way that the grip is shaped, right? The grip kind of comes out and over, whereas the semi-automatics are more of a right angle.
But when you get to the guys that are into the pseudo race guns, right, which are the 2.5 pound pulls, right? That's
I wouldn't put one of those down my pants.
Okay.
Or even something like a 1911, which again, who doesn't love 1911s? They're the best.
They have their thumb, right? You need your thumb,
right? And then a lot of times on the draw, like your first, in competition or something, your first move is to activate the safety.
Yeah.
Right? When you're right there and you pull up. If you do that at Appendix with that light of a trigger pull, you're kind of introducing some extra risk in there.
Right. So my I got a 2011. So so when I pull up, it doesn't come off until
you're out here.
I'm here. So it goes click click. Right.
Yep.
So it's almost like a 2 thing. But it's bang bang and then bang.
Yeah.
Right. So
in competition, when you shoot the what's the staccato, right?
STI.
Yeah. So when you go to grab from here, do you activate it from here, or do you activate it when it's out here?
I activate it when it's coming up.
Oh, okay. So even in competition.
Yeah. So it's I know I don't pull safeties off until it's 2 feet in front of me.
Got it.
So the muzzle's 2 feet aimed 2 feet in front of me coming up. So that's it. It's almost like an activation. So when I'm pulling safeties, I'm firing the gun.
Right.
So
it's bang bang.
Yeah, bang.
Right. Yeah.
So it's almost immediately.
Yeah.
That way it clears everything, and God forbid something happens. But even in competition, right, negligent discharge, it's out by the target.
Of course. Yeah.
Gives me a fighting chance to.
Right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Say, well, actually, it was at the target, right? So type of thing, right?
Yeah. You may not have to go home if you. And do you want to just be like, oh, it was a bad shot?
Right. And because I definitely don't want to, just throw one into the ground next to my foot, right?
Right. No,
yeah,
that'll get you sent home real quick.
Oh, yeah. And
as it should, right? Yeah.
And the company that I keep.
Yeah. No, you would never.
No.
You would never live that.
Yeah,
down.
that pretty much. You might as well start. Should get back to playing golf.
Right. They'd brand that on your head, and you never come back.
Well, thank you very much for the great info. I mean, that's fantastic.
Hey, man, thanks for
I
having
always
me.
wanted to explore the appendix carry, and finally you gave me an opportunity to do so. I
Cool.
appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much
No,
for
I
doing
think it's
that.
something, if you feel comfortable, you should definitely, take the next step.
Well, there you have it. Appendix carry from Jon Piraino. A special shout out to our channel membership. This is your support. Busy at work. Please consider being a part of our shooting community, building relationships around safe gun practice and IDPA competition. My name is Paul G, and this is
Jon Piraino.
Please be safe, and we'll see you on the range.
Like, share, subscribe.